Welcome back to another episode of Lone Star College Football. We have a pretty long episode today. We're going to go ahead and do a pretty late post game for the TCU Michigan game, a late post game for the Georgia Ohio State game, and we're going to do that now so that we can get into the pregame for the national championship game this year, which will be Georgia versus TCU. Probably the best semifinal weekend that we've seen. Both games were high scoring. They were shootouts. They came down to the last few minutes of the game, and one of them pretty much the last play of the game. And we're just going to jump into it and talk about it. Before we do, let's go ahead and get the intro.
Please, Lord, give me a sign, I want to be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest.
We'll go ahead and start off first with Georgia. Number 1 Georgia versus number 4 Ohio State. Georgia won 42-21 with Ohio State actually missing a field goal that would have given them the lead. It was not a chip shot. It was a 50-yard bomb. I mean, that's a long ways. But to be fair, that kicker on the drive before, I think, made a 48-yarder. So you kind of, I mean, he nailed the 48, like plenty of distance, right down the middle. I expected him to hit the 50, but, some people ain't got the ice in their veins. So it's a tough game, but they both played well. CJ Stroud had probably one of his best passing games of the season, as well as like Marvin Harrison Jr. He's a stud. We already know that. Georgia's defense kind of failed, right? Over the last 2 seasons, excluding the last weekend's game, over the last 2 seasons, Georgia's defense has only given up 11.4 points per game. So to give up 41 in a single game is not like Georgia, which we'll get into that for the TCU Georgia matchup, but like which defense you would assume to see the good defense, but man, if that bad defense comes out, TCU can score some points. On the flip side, Georgia, let's get some stats pulled up. Georgia had a really efficient game. I mean, box score wise, Stetson Bennett, 23 of 34 for just 2 yards short of 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. The running game you would probably want to see better, right? Total out of all the running backs, this kind of also includes Stetson Bennett, so we'll just do running backs. McIntosh, 5 for 70. Edwards, 8 for 58. Kendall Milton, 3 for 26. No rusher over 75 yards. I mean, 70 was their highest. You probably are going to need to do better against TCU, and TCU has a pretty stout run defense. We saw it last weekend against Michigan for the most part. There was a couple big runs, and then we saw it again like Texas for Bijan Robinson. They absolutely stuffed them. I picked Georgia to win. I'm pretty sure I picked Georgia to cover 6.5 or 7.5. I was surprised that their defense gave up this many points. Their offense showed up and showed out. I mean, Arian Smith, 3 receptions for 129 yards and a touchdown. He played really well. Defensively, did Ohio State throw any interceptions? No. CJ Stroud, 23 34 for 348, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Their run game was also pretty garbage, with their number 1 runner having 9 carries for 43 yards. I mean, their receivers, though, Emeka, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, 8 for 112 and a touchdown. Marvin Harrison, 5 for 106 and 2 touchdowns. Man, these are 2 talented teams. I would have, at the beginning of the season, really the only team I wouldn't have expected to get to the playoffs would have been TCU. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, I thought were locks. Probably think Bama would have snuck in. But either way, it was a good game. But, yeah, I mean, I wanted Georgia to win. They won. I'm happy with it. I really wanted to see Ohio State and Michigan in their bowl game or their playoff game against each other again. I wanted that matchup, so we did not get it. And we'll just go ahead and move into TCU and Michigan's post-game show. All right, so TCU and Michigan. A game that I guess some people expected. Logan semi-called a TCU win. He kind of made 2 predictions, got one of them right, so kudos to him. I didn't see this coming, by no means. I fully thought Michigan would beat them. I thought they'd cover. and Michigan came out flat. Now, mind you, Michigan outscored them in the second half by 9 points, but in the first half, they put up 6 and got outscored 21-6 in the first half. It's just they just played very poorly in the first half. Uh, Max Duggan, 14 of 29, 225, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's not a great stat line, considering you scored 51 points to only get 225 yards. Yeah, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks is not good. And I don't think against Georgia's defense, I don't think that'll work. But against Michigan, where JJ McCarthy also 20 of 34, 343, so almost 125 more yards, but still 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Now those picks kind of count each other out, but TCU got 2 pick sixes, so not really. They really didn't cancel each other. TCU scored 14 points off defense, and that will win you a lot of ball games. DeMarcado for TCU, Kendre Miller kind of got, I think he rolled his ankle or something, so hopefully he'll be able to come back. But he had 17 carries for 150 yards and 1 touchdown. Solid game. Quentin Johnston, 6 receptions for 163 yards and a touchdown. Another solid game for him. Quentin Johnston, I have called him overrated in the past, and I pretty much still stick with that. It's just in games where he doesn't have to be a factor, it feels like he isn't. But in games where he has to be, he is. I would like to see more consistency. And if that trend keeps going, then you can expect him to have a big game on Monday. But I don't think he's amazing. I think he's really good when he has to be. And the rest of the time, it's kind of up in the air about how well he's going to do. With that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into our pregame show for Georgia and TCU. It's gonna be a pretty solid game. Currently, let me just pull it up. Currently, it's sitting at 12.5 points for Georgia. Georgia's 12.5 point favorite. I think that's kind of disrespectful to TCU, considering what they've been doing. But at the same time, I get it. I'm not gonna pick Georgia. I'm not picking Georgia to cover 12.5. But I can see it happening. I mean, their defense is so good, and TCU's offense is good. But man, if Georgia holds them to 17, yeah, they'll cover, I think. But I can see this TCU offense scoring in the 30s. The over/under is 62.5. I'll go ahead and tell you, me and Logan have the same picks for this game. We're picking TCU, okay, not to win, but that we don't think Georgia will cover 12.5. We're picking the over at 62.5 because, let's face it, last week both of these teams went out and dropped 40 plus. I'm not going to pick those teams who are averaging 41.1 for TCU and 39.4 points per game for Georgia. I'm not going to go pick them to score under 62.5 against each other. Georgia's defense didn't show out. TCU has been watching tape all week, trying to figure out how they can do exactly what CJ Stroud and Ryan Day did. And I think they probably come out and execute well. TCU needs to be a first half team like they were last weekend. That really wasn't what they were known for the season, but last weekend they played pretty well in the first half, and they continue. I mean, they still scored 30 points in the second half. So they were a full team. That is a full complementary football team right there, and those teams are hard to beat. Georgia can do it as well, though. So that's the tough part. I don't know as if I see Georgia letting TCU get 2 defensive touchdowns. That might be why Georgia wins this game. Total yards per game, Georgia at 494, TCU at 474. Rushing yards, 201 to 204. Passing, 293 to 269. Defensively, here's the difference. Man, TCU average per game 100 yards more given up than Georgia. And that's only 20 yards through the air, but TCU is giving up 149.5 yards per game on the ground. That's with the way they shut down Bijan and the way they really shut down the run game last week against Michigan. Like they shut them. Let me go pull up the box score on that one again. Well, okay, they didn't really shut down Donovan Edwards too. Like he had 119 yards, but he did have a 54-yard run. So if you take that out, he's got 22 carries for what? 75 yards. That's not amazing. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. So even with that, though, they're giving up 149 yards per game, while Georgia on the ground is only giving up 77. Man, that run defense is tough to beat. If you can run the ball and you can stuff the run on defense, that is a tough team to beat. So I don't know which defense shows up though. That's the problem. Is it the one that gives up 41 to Ohio State? Not hating on them, they're good, or is it the team that's ultimately going to hopefully show up against TCU? Now I've told you my picks as far as who I'm picking to win. I do want to get in a little bit just why, okay? Because some people, and hear me out. If this is you, that's fine. If you are a college football fan, you live in the state of Texas, and you're saying, I just like football, Texas, just Texas football. If my team, so I'll say I'm a Longhorn, Longhorns aren't in it, TCU's Texas team, I'm rooting for TCU. That's fair. If that's your opinion, that is fair. Where I struggle on that is, first of all, TCU is a team that has given my Longhorns a lot of fits in the last few years, last decade. And so I don't see why I would root for them when they've caused so many terrible Saturdays for me over the last decade. But that's not even the main reason. That's just my personal reason. The main reason is recruiting, right? First of all, we recruit against both of these schools, Georgia and TCU. We recruit against both of them. But when it comes to in-state guys, Georgia can come in and they cherry pick a little, take a little. And TCU, for the most part, has been they take a lot, but it's all, third or 3 stars, low 4 stars. Well, TCU being where they're at right now, 1 year under Sonny Dykes, and they're in the playoffs and the Natty. You think if they win this thing, that doesn't hurt Texas's recruiting, especially if they do it again next year? Like, if not, mind you, I think TCU is going to lose a lot of upperclassmen guys this year. But if they play the portal right and they recruit well, Sonny Dykes might run it back. And after 2 or 3 years of TCU, especially now that we're going to have a 12-team playoffs in 2024, if TCU next year makes the playoffs or is a top 8 team, and then in 2024 they're a top 12 team and they make the playoffs and start winning a game, they don't even have to win the whole thing. Just win a playoff game here and there. They're going to recruit better. They're going to pick it up. With Texas and Oklahoma leaving for the SEC, TCU has a serious chance at being the top dog in the Big 12. And once Texas is gone, I don't care. Be the top dog in the Big 12. Whatever. But while we're here and we're recruiting against y'all for some of the same guys, I'm not going to root for TCU to win a game where a high schooler might be sitting on his couch watching saying, man, and Texas had another disappointing year, but Sonny Dykes over in Fort Worth for TCU in 1 year turned that program around. No, I don't want that. It's already happened. I can't run from that. That's already happening, right? There's already kids sitting at home saying, wow, 1 year, Sonny Dykes made them playoffs, and man, they won a game. That's even better. I'm not going to root for them to win the national championship so that recruit can say, man, not only did they make the playoffs and win a game, they won the whole thing. No, not doing it. With that being said, Jared, if you watch this video, the only reason I would root for TCU is so I can see my buddy enjoy that, because we all know that I hadn't really. I was 6 or 7 whenever we won a national championship. So yeah. With that being said, if y'all made it this far in the video, I appreciate y'all rocking with us. Y'all do us a favor, like the video, leave a comment, score predictions. Who do you want to win? Why? And subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the push notification so you can never miss another episode of Lone Star College Football. And we do have some giveaways coming up. We are just about 340 subscribers. So we're 260-ish away from another giveaway at 500. And if we can reach 1,000 by September 2nd, I think is the opening weekend for Texas and Baylor, we're going to do ticket giveaways. So we're going to do one. For 100% sure we are going to do one. We want to do 2. And that kind of just all depends on if first of all, we gotta meet the goal. And second of all, we got to see just how expensive tickets are going to be next year. We're not monetized yet. 1,000 would help us get there. So we're not making any money off of this. All these giveaways are out of pocket. So we don't want to jump in and start guaranteeing too much right off the bat. So if that sounds interesting to y'all, and y'all want to maybe check out a game with me and Logan, or if you're not a Texas fan or a Baylor fan, you're like, I want a chance to win, but I don't really want to go to a Texas Baylor game, that's fine. We'll do a video where y'all can comment what team y'all like, and maybe we just send y'all the tickets, and you can buy another ticket and take your wife or kid or best friend or whatever to any game, whatever game you want to. So with that being said, appreciate y'all rocking with us. Until next time.